Talking today to photographer Alinka Echeverria, who has an exhibition in the EB&Flow Gallery in London called The Road to Tepeyac. Alinka, what's the pilgrimage that takes place to Tepeyac on which the exhibition is based?
The pilgrimage to Tepeyac is a pilgrimage of approximately 6 to 8 million pilgrims every year who travel from all around Mexico and even from other places to the sacred site of the Virgin of Guadaloupe, which is the Basilica de Guadaloupe in Mexico City. Anciently, this was the sacred place of the Aztec goddess Tonatzin, and the pilgrimage is a homage to the apparition of the Virgin of Guadaloupe, who appeared there in 1531. She appeared 5 times over 5 days to the indigenous man Juan Diego, and from belief in these apparitions are the turning point in the spiritual conquest of Mexico. So since then, the indigenous people have believed in the Virgin of Guadaloupe, and now most of Mexico is devoted to her. So it's a really incredible journey for these individuals, but it also becomes a
And she left behind an image, didn't she? Which
yes,
is
so
represented here on this particular picture.
Yeah, so on the first and second apparitions, she asked Juan Diego to tell the bishop that she wanted her temple built in Tepeyac, on the mountain of Tepeyac, and the tale recounts that they didn't believe him, so she said, pick up these flowers, these roses, and take them to the bishop. And the roses didn't naturally grow in Tepeyac, so that was one of a little miracle. And then when he took them in his cloak and gave them to the bishop, her image was imposed on his cloak. And this is the same image that's, it's said to be the same image that's now in the Basilica de Guadaloupe. So 500 years later, it's still there. And this is the image that people go to see. And what I find very interesting as a visual anthropologist is how there's no separation between the image and the Virgin of Guadaloupe. It's not the image of her, it really is her to the people who believe in her. And the other thing that's really interesting is the representation, the re-representation of the sacred image that can be represented infinitely in different ways by these individuals who worship her. So in my series, there's 300. I think if I'd carried on, we could have had a series of 4,000, and every single one is different in the way that it's
And people make
framed.
these images, or they're made for them?
Yeah, both. You have various repetitions of very commercial, printed on cloth or almost poster-like images, to the very delicate craftsmanship made from wood, like mosaic wood. But even those that are this very commercial, simply printed, they're often decorated in a very personal way or worn in a very personal way. So what's important to highlight is that these pilgrims take the Virgin that's in their home, so they would have a representation of the Virgin, a statue or painting, in their homes, and they decorate it for the journey. Sometimes they wrap her almost like a baby for the journey, along with their belongings that they'll need for the journey, which is approximately a week long. And they put all this on their backs and walk until they arrive to the temple.
Okay, and the temple is in fact the religious site of a previous religion. So in a way, it ties in the two religions, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the Virgin of Guadaloupe appeared on the sacred site of the Aztec goddess Tonatzin, who was the ultimate mother figure, the image of the sacred feminine, representing the mother of all the gods in the polytheistic religion. And when she appeared, I think there was a lot of, they amalgamated basically the Virgin Mary and Tonatzin, and a lot of...
And to what extent today is there other older reverberations of the...
It's very visible, actually. There are a lot of indigenous people that go there and worship Tonatzin, and to them there's no division between the two because she ultimately represents the same thing, which is unconditional love, the sacred feminine. She was often, the goddess of the Mother Earth. All these things in Mexico have a lot of resonance. So Aztec dancers will still dance to Tonatzin and sing to her. So the amalgamation between the two, the Aztec goddess Tonatzin and the Virgin Mary of Guadaloupe, really still has a lot of resonance today. For example, this pilgrim is an Aztec dancer, and these are the seeds he uses to make noise, and he's decorated the Virgin with feathers and with Aztec symbols, and he worships Tonatzin and the Virgin of Guadaloupe, and to him the two are very much amalgamated, so they represent the same thing, the sacred feminine, unconditional love, the ultimate mother.
And how does the church view this double religion, as it were?
I have no idea, actually. I assume they understand that they built their basilica on the sacred site of the Aztec goddess, so there has to be some repercussions. I think throughout Latin America, the synchronicity of two religions, syncretism. So in Cuba you have Santeria, and in Brazil, in Bahia, you have African and Catholic, and I think in Mexico it's we don't often think of it, but it's still very much there, I think, in the way that people worship and in the way that they accepted Catholicism somehow, because there was this, although it's not a polytheistic religion, there's so many saints that kind of remind us of the polytheistic Aztec and other indigenous cultures of Mexico.
So tell me a little more about this image on the wall here.
Well, I love this one because you don't quite know where it came from. It's almost like futuristic, and one of the wonderful things about this pilgrimage is that there are all these almost kitsch representations over the top. This object was gigantic. It's actually on a slant, but it must have been about 5 foot tall and very, very heavy, I assume. And what I'm interested in is how this sacred image has been transformed over 500 years, and how personal each one is to them. So this man obviously wanted, the bigger, the better, the shinier, the more precious, as precious as it could be. And what I'm interested in as well is the personal and psychological relationship that they have with the Virgin. So they would have this image at home and talk to the Virgin as if she was their mother. It's not an abstract figure to them, it's very personal. They call her by her nickname, and there's a lot of negotiation of if this miracle comes true, I'll walk here next year, I'll walk on my knees for the last 100 meters, and they really do come back year after year.
And they keep a conversation going.
Yeah, very much conversation,
about their lives,
consolation, support, and ultimately faith that she's there unconditionally.
So how did you become a photographer?
I studied social anthropology at Edinburgh University, and I lived in Uganda and Malawi. I was doing AIDS education work there, HIV prevention, and I became more and more interested in photography because I really saw firsthand the power of it, the power of this a visual language to tell stories, and I started photographing the teenagers I was working with. And then I moved back to Mexico and I decided to pursue this career. So I studied and worked since 2005 on various documentary projects, also doing stills for films. And now, and my practice very naturally became more artistic, kind of breaking the boundaries of traditional reportage, traditional documentary. I felt that it wasn't enough, or it just I needed to push it further. So I started doing more conceptual series, and this is where I am now. So I'm still trying to tell real stories. I'm still inspired by the real world, but I'm telling them in a different way.
And what's your next project?
Well, I have a few ongoing projects. I am working on a project about the veterans of the Cuban Revolution, which is called Cuba 1959, the Second Front. I've been working on that for a few years. It's a research project, historical anthropology, a lot of interviews about...
and how many survivors are there?
Well, I'm concentrating on one small town actually, and there was 102 when I started working. Unfortunately, they're all passing away, but I hope to finish that by the end of the year in time for, well, the anniversary of the Cuban Missile Crisis is in October, so it's quite timely.
And what's the other project you're working on?
The other project is continuing in Mexico, the religious project. In the show, I'm also showing another series called Small Miracles, which is an installation of 22 light boxes, showing the small miracles, which are tokens that are left on the cloak of the Virgin in another temple in Oaxaca in southern Mexico. And this is a continuation of my interest in image and belief, the relationship between the two, and how through image we believe and how we almost need an image in order to do so. And so the pilgrims in Juquila leave a token, whether it be an arm for a broken arm or a car if they want to buy a car. And this is their prayer. So it's like a tangible manifestation of their prayer that they leave to the Virgin. So I want to continue exploring this relationship between image and belief.
Alinka, thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you.